Don Settle used to be a minister. If you didn't catch that, that was kind of like, so thank you, Donna, also for helping with the singing. And Anna, you've done a great job up here. Tim, of course, you blow us away every week, it seems like. We're starting the book study. This is The Power of Eight, and The Power of Eight talks about small groups that get together and pray in the same place at the same time over one specific intention. And I'm encouraging everybody to do this. And I'm not like, usually I say, it'd be great if you join a small group. And this time I'm just saying, you better join a small group, because this is a great chance to actually practice and experience what we've talked about here on a weekly basis. But in this particular small group, you're going to actually be praying for people in a small group together, and the chance to have results both in your life and in the person you're praying for are enormous. And so you wouldn't want to miss it for that reason, but also because I really think this is the beginning, or a great way to enter into this awareness that we're all one. That we are more than what you see in the skin. That we are a whole lot more than that, and that there is communication going on all the time with everything in all our world, all at the same time, and we are part of it, and we're not separate, and we are not a weak link in that. That if you will do this together, you're going to find that your heart begins to open in this process, and you begin to realize that when the minds of 8 people, whether it be 4 or 16 or whatever the real number is in your group, when the group mind begins to happen, as Jesus said, where 2 or more are gathered, there am I also. So you're going to have this experience of linking up minds. And the linking up of minds will start something that is harder to do on your own, this awareness that you are part of the divine. And that as you pray, as you intend, as you give your heart to something, something happens. And this happens in large part because you're intending to help someone else. And in helping someone else, you begin to diminish this sense of separateness. You lower your practice way of being, which is that I am separate and I end at the skin, and you begin to practice knowing that you are more than that. And even if you don't know you're going into it to do that, it kind of ends up being that way. Now, the book is a great book for examples on examples of evidence that this works. It tells lots of stories of big groups, small groups, intending. It talks about the effects on plants, on the effects on random number generators, the effects on people, etc. The power of prayer to affect things, or intention, the power of intention to affect things. And this is an amazing thing, to be invited to be in a group where you actually get to prove this to yourself. If you have a mind that is filled with doubt and tends to question spiritual things, then read this book. If you're a person of faith that doesn't really need to be proved to you in any way, then you don't have to. Just be part of the group. So take your pick. We've run out, but Amazon has some more. Okay. So that's the pitch for the book. Now I want to talk about the idea of separateness. Where do we start? First, I want to say that I think it's the great lie. So the great lie is that you're separate. And we live in a culture, we live in the blanket of almost all our experience from cultural input, is that we are separate. You were born a little person, you'll age, and you will die, and you will be alone on your journey. And you might have friends and family along the way, but it's you by yourself. That's it. Sorry, buddy. And the great suffering in this world, of which there are three, but the greatest suffering in this world is the belief that you're separate. Now, there is a book, many books actually have come out, spiritual books, of course, that say you're not separate. One of the best ones is the Course in Miracles. Now, we have two classes in the Course in Miracles going on here, one on Monday night, one on Thursday at 1:30. But the book can be broken down into a very simple story, and here's what it says. In the beginning, you were with God, and you knew you were with God. And you were like a piece of consciousness inside the divine, a piece of light inside the sun. You were there, and it was all just one. And then somehow, one day, you had this random thought that I'm separate from God. Now, you can imagine yourself, let's say, as a ray of light inside the sun, but you had this thought, I'm separate from God, and you didn't laugh. And then you thought, oh my God, I'm separate from God, and God must be angry with me. And since God is angry with me, he's probably going to punish me. And so I'm going to beat him to the punch, and I'm going to be guilty. Maybe this will save me from the punishment. I'm going to carry guilt around. And not only that, I'm going to see guilt in other people. And I'm going to be unforgiving. And therein lies the crux. Now we live in a world of unforgiveness and the sense of separateness, and we do not know the truth that we are a light within the sun, and there is no way you could be separate, but you can believe it and have the total experience of separateness. And this is the Course's whole thing. Forgive. Forgive yourself. Forgive everything. Change your mind about the way it is, and you will cease to have this suffering that comes from being separate. Now, the sense of suffering that we're talking about is called existential suffering. It's because you think you exist separately. Two other types of suffering, and you probably know those. The body can hurt. We have nerves, we have feedback. Some of it's pain, and it can suffer. Psychologically, you can suffer. You can have a loss of dignity, a loss of status, loss of friendship. You can suffer from thinking badly of yourself. These are psychological ways of suffering. You can have those too. If you fix the body, maybe your body doesn't hurt. And if you have your psychology worked out, you can still have existential suffering. You don't notice it when you're suffering with the pain of the body. You don't notice it so much if you're really troubled in your mind about your status in the world or what you think about yourself. You won't notice it. But fix those, and you're going to go, how come I'm not happy? What's wrong? I got a healthy body, I got money, I have relationships, but I'm still not happy. It is that you feel separate, that there is there's something missing. And today, I want you to talk and think about the cure. So the cure is to get over this lie that you're a separate sense of self. You must change the way you think, and therefore you'll change the way you experience, and you won't be living in a shell, a bubble, away from everyone else. I want to explain this in political terms. So, there are, let's say, two groups in this country, the left and the right. And most of us are getting a lot of our information off the internet now, today, and some of us off TV, but mostly we're getting kind of filtered information, if you notice this. If you happen to be on the right, you get your information from Fox, and if you're on the left, maybe MSNBC. But if you get it online, it's even worse. So here's what happens online. You go to shop for a product. Let's say you want a golf club or something, and you go online, and then every time you turn on the computer, up comes up an ad for golf clubs, right? Well, that's the same way you get your news feeds. So you have your news feeds coming to you. They are going, we want you to watch this. We don't want you to turn away and go, oh, I don't want to see that because it's from the other side. They say, no, we'll give you, so if you're on the right, we'll give you more from the right. Here, look, here's a story. Here's a story that confirms you're right. And on the left, it goes, no, here's a story that proves that those guys are wrong, and you're right. And you read it, and you go, oh, wow, I'm really learning stuff. I know what's going on. I'm paying attention to the news. I'm informed. Right? Each one thinking they know, and they don't. Because you don't know. And this has really gotten me upset, because I was over here just about, this happened to me twice in the last couple of months. I'm going, how smug I am. I'm paying attention to the news. I know what's going on. And then it dawns on me, I don't know jack. I don't know, because I've been told the same thing over and over. I don't know what's going on. I know what I think, and they are feeding it back to me. And oddly enough, your minds do the same thing. They've been doing what the internet's doing for your whole life. You think you know something, and you find it out to be true. How? What a smart boy am I. Right? That person's no good. You find lots of evidence. I'm a loser. You find tons of evidence. I'm loved by everybody. How many people say that one? But anyway, when you do that, I'm loved by everybody, you find out, oh my God, they all love me. What the heck? They do. Jeez Louise. Some outlier every once in a while says something that isn't on that, you go, she'll come around. Right? This is our problem. We live inside this bubble of reinforcing what we already think. And if you're told that you're a separate sense of self, if you believe you're a separate sense of self, all you're going to do is find evidence that it's out there. You're going to walk around and you're going to hear messages like, it's all up to you, bub. You must compete to succeed. Everybody dies alone. You know? Nobody's going to watch out for you, buddy. It's a dangerous world. How do you know when people are lying? Their mouths are moving. It's a dangerous world out there. Right? You can believe this. And it can become your experiential truth. Because just as you look around this room and you say, I'd like to see blue, then all you see is blue. And then you say, all I want to see is green. All you can see is green. Right? You've done these little games with yourself, right? All I want to hear is bad news. Sure enough, you do. All I hear is good news. Sure enough, you do. I am separate and alone in this world. I end at my skin. This is all you can see. And I guarantee you, your eyes will not be able to see anything other than that. That's all the information you'll get in, because that's all that's let through the filters. And so you're stuck being yourself. Separate. Existentially suffering from it. Body's good, emotion's good. I'm not happy. Can't be happy because we bought the big lie that we're separate. You talk about fake news. Fake news. You are separate from everyone else. So I was watching Lynn McTaggart, the woman who wrote the book, The Power of Eight, and she wrote another book called The Field, and she was talking about her conversation with a physicist. And the physicist was talking about this thing, which I had never really heard. Essentially that the subatomic particles, all subatomic particles, are exchanging energy with each other all the time, and that's part of the reason they can blink into and out of existence. Now, I don't really personally understand this very much, as most people who talk about quantum don't understand it very much. Even the scientists who talk about it, not sure they understand it either. For that matter, Niels Bohr, who was one of the founders of quantum, said, you know, if you think you understand quantum, you don't. Nobody does. Well, that was 100 years ago, but now it's still pretty true. We don't really grok it because it's so counterintuitive to the level of perception that we're used to. So at the level of perception we're used to, it doesn't make much sense. But here is what they know to be true, even though you can't see it with your eyes, that there's energy exchange between the subatomic particles, and it's happening all the time. It is how existence maintains itself. It's going on right now. Between you and me, there's so much exchange going on at this moment, according to this physicist, is enough energy between the two of us to boil the ocean. That's a lot. But what's even more quirky about this is that there's not only energy, but information. So information is passing between us. If it's enough to boil the ocean, there must be a bit, correct? Even if it's a small bit on each piece of energy, there is information there. Think how much information is passing between us at any moment. And so you can affect things at a distance because there's really this exchange already going on. That's pretty wild, isn't it? Now, you're not going to see it with your eyes, but you can feel it sometimes. You can sense it. You can come to know through experiments that it's real. So there are lots of experiments that prove this to be true. You know, experiments with seeds, groups intending this group of seeds to grow and that one not, group of healers praying for one group of AIDS patients and not the other, and the ones that they prayed for get better and the ones that they didn't pray for died. You know, there's a lot of evidence to say this is true. There's remote seeing. You know, you can sit in this room or there are men that the CIA worked with that could sit in this room and tell you what's going on in Russia in a bunker by giving the coordinates and nothing more. There's knowing that disproves this sense of separateness all over the place. But if you don't look for it, you won't find it. If you don't feel into it, you won't know it. And if you don't practice it, it will just be a secret to you. So our job here as human beings, if we wish to be happy, I mean happy beyond the body and its circumstances, happy beyond your emotional state, really deeply and profoundly happy. If we wish to be whole in all those levels, if we wish to be a light in the world and not just hidden under a bushel basket, we must catch on that we are not separate and live from that place. Speak from that place. Pray from that place. This becomes a different world. This becomes a world in which the left and the right know each other as brothers and sisters. This becomes a place where you don't have wars based on petty things. Parenthetically, they're all petty compared to this. So, you know, Mark Siljander, who was a congressman who has come and speak here, Mark Siljander used to go to world leaders in troubled areas and he would pray with them. And he thought there was a formula for being able to affect people through his prayer. And he was successful. I mean, he stopped a couple of wars and brought in peacekeepers in a couple other places and made a profound experience for people, not by telling these dictators and these warlords what to do, but by breaking bread with them, making friendships, and praying with them. The interior wall of separateness, and I have to defend, or I have to crush you, or there is no way but my way, melted for these guys. And they opened the door for peace. Eat, love, pray. Right? And that's this magic formula. And we spend so much of our time in this solitary world of ours, which is within our minds. There is a formula for knowing what's in your mind. And it's a really easy formula. Unfortunately, it's way too accurate. If you want to know what's going on inside your mind, see what you're seeing in the world. What you're seeing is what's happening here. Think about that. There are people who are wiser than I am in the world of physics. Well, let me start with a small example first. You know, when they want to find where a quantum particle is, or an electron or a photon is landing, they set up these options for it to land in different places, and they basically say that it doesn't really show up as having landed until they look for it, and then it shows up as being there. That happens with double slit experiments, etc. But anyway, it's a very confirmed thing that as a scientist looks, then it becomes consolidated from the world of possibilities into one thing. And so if you take that to the extreme, here's another idea, that the world is uncoalesced until you look at it. It is until you observe it, it's not really formed. It's in the world of possibilities, because all the particles that make up the world are in the world of possibilities until you look. And lo and behold, there it is. Now, if that's really true, it matters where you look and what you look for, doesn't it? That's scary. Now, you're the boss. And you can't blame anybody for anything at all. Sorry to ruin your day. But if it's only partially true, as we see the world, so it becomes. As we see another, so they become to us. As we love, so we are loved. As you give, you shall receive. And where two or more are gathered in the same place, determining what they want to see, the world begins to move in that direction. And you can know it because you're practicing it. And you don't live in this completely bifurcated world of isolation. You begin to see that you have an effect on everything, everyone, everybody, every experience you have. You are part of the source of that experience, if not the whole thing. You're involved. At a distance, up close. In Zambia and Zebulon. Here and right there. Everywhere. This is your world. You made it. You made it. You could remake it. If this room woke up, if we all woke up to that truth, deep, wide, profoundly in us, if we all woke up to it, do you think, if any particle of what I said was true, we could not bend the world toward our vision? Could we not make a world of peace? Could we not be the beginning place where the ripple effect goes out from here, and all we care is that we heal the world and we get off ourselves long enough to recognize that we're all in this together? The New Age has done a really good job. The New Age, perhaps New Thought, has done a really good job of saying the world is a supermarket. Go down the aisle and choose what you want. Visualize it. Be an energy match for it. And you shall have it. Right? Abraham Hicks, Charles Fillmore, you name it. They all said the same thing, more or less. It's time for us to grow up to the next level. And the next level is pray for others that they have it. And the interesting thing about her book, Lynn McTaggart says that when you start this altruistic way of praying and really truly being invested in what other people want, in their happiness, etc., there's such a vibration, there's such a bounce back effect, there's such a tone that happens that you get what you want without even worrying about it. Because you care for others and really wish them well and tune into this mind, you begin to get what you want. Now, isn't that a blessed quirk, twist on this whole new thought, new age way of I, which is almost like taking medicine that's tainted with poison. We realize that we have an effect on the world, and yet we reinforce that I am separate. That's got to change. We got to throw the poison out and just take the medicine. And then I think we're going to have more of this awakening we've talking about, where we realize that we are not the victim of the world we see, but co-creators, part and parcel with the divine. God in this world is all of us. And we are in such a unique position that we can consciously choose something and intend it and see it come about. This is amazing, isn't it? Yes. It is our turn to wake up, to do it, to stop your whining, to do not claim that your brother is a jerk. Don't find fault with anyone else. Don't find fault here. But fix this separate sense of self so that you can love without restraint. You can love with abandon. You can smile at the world because that is your oyster. Let this be your experience, not separateness. I think we've worked that one long enough. Let us pray. Okay, let's do it. Let's pray. So I want you to focus again on your breath, if you would. Now the breath is going to come in and go out, right? It always does. And when you breathe it in, you say, this is my breath. But when you breathe it out, it becomes the breath, it becomes air again, rather, of the whole atmosphere. It's another piece of the whole atmosphere. For a moment, it is your breath. But for most of the time, it is the atmosphere. Now I imagine that we will think it is our breath until we breathe it out the last time. And then we will realize we were always one with all of it. And the breath was the air, and the air was the breath. And we were not separate. We were not alone. We were never unloved. We were always loved, connected, part of the one presence and the one power, part of God. And once again, somewhere along the line, we will laugh at that idea. All will be forgiven. All will be united. Now let us join our hearts and have an intention. Let us intend that this whole room, every one of us, awakens. But do it this way. Intend that everyone around you awakens to the truth that you are not separate. Everyone. Intend that everyone in this room, not that you so much, but that everyone in this room awakens. That they might see themselves as part of the divine, and they might rejoice and be happy in it. That their hearts might unite with all hearts, and they might feel love everywhere all the time. That there might be such profound peace in their being that a thought of separateness or anger would just simply melt away. Hold for each of us that we awaken to that. Shower grace upon us all. Make us in the image of the divine. Remake us as open, beautiful, lively expressions and sources. Hold that vision for us. Bring intent. Bring your heart. Bring your power. Hallelujah. And so it is. I want to tell you a little story kind of connecting to Don's experience with the undie. So years ago,